Welcome to this Get Your Guide video. I am Marilena and I have been a licensed guide in Milan since 2009. I love my job because I am in touch with many people coming from different countries and I like showing the beauty around us. I am an official guide at Milan Duomo and also a Get Your Guide original at Milan Cathedral. I love this tour because I can explain to a small group of people some hidden gems, some hidden curiosities which you cannot find on a net or in a book. And so today, like in a real tour, I want to take you through Milan Cathedral, which is one of the symbols of my city and one of the symbols of Italy all around the world. And so, during this video, we will enter into the cathedral to admire the magnificent architecture of the Duomo. We'll discover some archaeological remains, some important archaeological remains into the archaeological area, and then we'll finish this amazing experience on the rooftop, walking through spires, looking at gargoyles, and admire the magnificent view of Milan from the top. Well, usually during a real tour, we'll visit all these areas from the bottom part, from the archaeological area to the rooftop. And if you want, you can do some exercise by walking up the 251 steps from the bottom part to the rooftop. But don't worry, we always take the lift. So now we are at home, safe and healthy. Must stay home, but I hope you enjoy this video and I suggest at the end of the tour, at the end of this tour, to leave questions, to leave comments into the comment section below. Well, I want to go back to work soon because I like when the visitors are inside the cathedral for the first time and they say wow for the first time. So I fell in love with the cathedral several days ago because I love every one of the 3,400 statues and I am always impressed by the beauty of the 55 stained glass windows, and I like walking I like walking on the floor, which is decorated with different types of marble. And so let's talk about numbers. Do you know how many spires there are on the rooftop and how many gargoyles there are all around? Well, if you want to leave your answer, you can use the comment section below. And so, let's start. Welcome to the Duomo, welcome to the Cathedral of Milan, which is the fourth largest cathedral in Europe because the surface area is 11,700 meters square. This church was built over a very long period of time from 1386 to 1965 on an area where in the past there were two churches before the Duomo. So we can imagine outside the Duomo a church which was called Santa Tecla. The Santa Tecla was where now there is the Duomo Square, and on the opposite side, into the central nave of the Duomo, there was another church smaller than the Duomo called Santa Maria Maggiore. Between the two churches there was the first baptistry into the Christendom, called the Baptistry of San Giovanni alle Fonti, dedicated to St. John the Baptist. And this building was planned by St. Ambrose, our patron saint, at the end of the 4th century. Well, I'll show you some important archaeological remains during the tour into the archaeological area. Well, in 1386, the Duomo the construction of the Duomo started because a few years before, the bell tower of Santa Maria Maggiore collapsed on the church, destroying the church. And so the first walls were made using bricks, but the following year, in 1387, Gian Galeazzo Visconti, who was the Duke of Milan, established the Veneranda Fabbrica del Duomo for the construction of the cathedral. This organization is even now really important for the restoration works and for the maintenance of the church. So please don't forget Gian Galeazzo Visconti because this duke is really important for the history of the cathedral. So Gian Galeazzo Visconti donated the Candoia quarry of marble, and Candoia is the name of the village where there is the quarry of marble, and is in Piedmont, 100 kilometers from here. The materials were carried down from the quarry to the workshop, which was behind the apse area, so in the center of the city, by water, on the so-called navigli, the water canals of Milan, and they were carried down free of charge. On these slabs of marble, it was written AUF, ad usum fabrice in Latin, for the use of the cathedral, and so the materials were carried down free of charge. This is why even now in Milan, when something is for free, is a UFO. So Giangrezio Visconti chose the international Gothic style. So at first, many workers were from Germany, from France, where the Gothic style was born. But we must say that the Duomo was made by the work and by the money of the Milanese. And so this is why the Duomo is the most important church of Milan and is called Cathedral, because inside of the Duomo there is the cathedral, so the seat of the Archbishop. But now let's go inside the cathedral to admire the three largest stained glass windows. So just in front of you, you can recognize the three largest stained glass windows dedicated to the Old Testament on the left, to the Apocalypse in the middle, and on the right side to the New Testament. And each stained glass window is composed by panels, and each panel is made with pieces of glass, colored pieces of glass connected by lines of lead. And so you can read these stained glass windows like in a poor man's Bible, and you can recognize, for example, into the stained glass window dedicated to the New Testament, the Visitation, the Annunciation, the marriage of the Virgin Mary, just to the crucifixion at the top. And so we are talking about stained glass windows, and so I would like to show you my favorite stained glass window. Why? Because into this stained glass window there is the hidden signature of the painter Giuseppe Arcimboldo, who was involved to the making of this stained glass window with the glassmaker Cademokis from Cone. Giuseppe Arcimboldo was a Milanese painter who became famous for his brilliant paintings where there are faces composed of fruits and vegetables. If you want to admire some paintings, you can go to at the Louvre in Paris. And so here, into the stained glass window dedicated to Saint Cassiano from Alexandria, you can recognize in the middle. So here, into this image, into in the part below the triangle-shaped decoration, you can find the hidden signature of Giuseppe Arcimboldo, where there are some angels on some festoons composed of fruits and vegetables. Well, now I want to tell you about a special rite, which is the rite of the Nivola. The Nivola is the Milanese word for cloud, because this special lift is decorated with clouds and angels. And this lift is used every second weekend of September by the Archbishop to recover the Holy Nail. The Holy Nail is, according to tradition and faith, one of the holy nails used during the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and so is preserved into a reliquary above the choir at 42 meters. And now I want to show one of the most famous statues of the cathedral, which is the statue of Saint Bartholomew. If you look at the statue, you can find a man standing and surrounded by a cloth. But if you go behind the statue, you can recognize that he is wearing his own skin, because Saint Bartholomew was one of the 12 apostles and he was skinned alive during the persecution against the early Christians. The sculptor was Marco from Agrate, and he was one of the pupils of Leonardo da Vinci, who left a magnificent jewel here in Milan, the Last Supper. And so you can compare the statue to the anatomy studies of Leonardo da Vinci. Now we are in front of the main altar area. You can admire the main altar, which was the main altar of Santa Maria Maggiore. Behind the main altar there is a temple which is called Ciborium, and behind the temple there is the wooden choir planned by Saint Charles Borromeo. And just in front of you, two of the four organ cases where there are 15,800 pipes. And so this is the largest organ in Italy. So if you want to listen to some music coming from this organ, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy the music. Well, did you like the music? We are under the lantern. We are into an area which was made at the end of the 15th century when Milan was ruled by the Sforza family, and this is the most fragile part of the cathedral since the beginning. So this is why outside and inside there are many scaffoldings. If you look at the four pillars, you can recognize that the marble is not clean, was not clean. It was completely remade during an extraordinary restoration project 36 years ago. Well, in Milan, when something is never-ending, is come la fabbrica del Duomo, is like the construction of the cathedral, because the cathedral started at the end of the 14th century by the Alps area, from the Alps area, and it was finished only at the beginning of the 19th century with a facade which was finished during the Napoleonic period, during the period of Napoleon Bonaparte. So the facade was finished at the beginning of the 19th century, but just at the end of the same century, the managers of Veneranda Fabbrica del Duomo wanted to change the facade, and so they organized an international competition, which was won by a young architect, Giuseppe Brentano, who unfortunately died here after his victory. Well, then they decided to leave the facade like this. But if you want to admire the never-made facade, you can enter into the Duomo Museum and you can recognize the project of Giuseppe Brentano. So now we are in front of the Corte facade. All around us there are the 52 pillars, and if you look at the floor, you can admire a brass line surrounded by zodiac signs. But this is what? If you look at the ceiling of the first southern bay, you can recognize a hole, and this hole is the hole of the Meridian Sundial of the cathedral, which was planned just in 1786 by the Brera astronomers. But how does it work? If you look at this hole, you can imagine every day at noon a single ray of light passing from this hole and landing on the sundial, marking the month. So on June, the spot of sunlight is on Gemini, on December is on Capricorn, and so on. So now we are downstairs, we are underneath the churchyard of the cathedral, and we are in front of the archaeological remains of the buildings before the Duomo. As I told you before, into this area there were two churches, Santa Tecla and Santa Maria Maggiore, and between the two churches there was the first baptistry. And so here, this is the first octagonal-shaped baptistry, the first building reserved to baptism, and here St. Augustine was baptized on the eve before Easter 387 by St. Ambrose. And now, let's go outside, let's go to admire the statues. If you look, for example, at the facade, you can admire the so-called Milanese Statue of Liberty, and into the bottom part, all around the cathedral, there are 746 corbels called peducci, where there are animals, portraits of sculptors, and monsters, and a mermaid, like here. So, we saw the apse area from inside, and we saw the three largest stained glass windows. Now we are outside, and into the central stained glass window there is a sun, but this is not only the sun of justice, is at the same time something to remember. Gian Galeazzo Visconti, do you remember the Duke of Milan who established the Veranda Fabbrica del Duomo? Well, if you look at the sun, you can recognize that each ray is like a snake, because into the coat of arms of the Visconti family there was a snake. And so please don't be scared by the gargoyles. They are monsters all around the cathedral, carried by male and female giants, and they are really important because they must scare away evil from the cathedral, and they must drain the rain off the rooftop. Well, these are copies, because if you want to admire the collection of the original gargoyles, you can enter the Duomo Museum and you can find beautiful series of monsters into this important museum, which is connected to the cathedral. Well, these gargoyles are called in Italian doccioni, or big shower, because the Italian word for shower is doccia. Why? Because if you go below these gargoyles when it's raining, you are really wet. Well, finally we are on the rooftop and we are surrounded by decorations made in Candoia marble. The roof tiles are made using this beautiful and pinkish material. The spires are made using the Candoia marble. So everything here is made using this precious and fragile material. So the material gets damaged by the pollution, by the rain, and so this is why the workers here on the Veranda Fabbrica del Duomo must replace several times the spires and all the decorations with a brand new marble coming from the same quarry in Piedmont, in Candoia. From this area you can admire the spires, and this is the statue of St. George, which was on the first spire dedicated to Marco Carelli. The original statue is now in the Duomo Museum, and according to tradition, the face is a portrait of Gian Galeazzo Visconti, always him. From this point of view, you can admire the tallest spire, where at the top there is, since 1774, the statue of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary. But we love to call her Madonnina, small Madonna, because the statue seems quite small from the ground, but the statue is a huge statue, is 4 meters 16 centimeters high, and she is at the top at 108.5. Well, the statue is not in gold, is in gilded copper. This is why near her right hand there is the lighting rod hidden inside the halberd. Well, the original frame was in iron. You can admire the original frame into the Duomo Museum, and if you want, well, we can imagine that inside now there is a stainless steel frame. Well, from the top, sometimes on the top of the tallest spire, you can admire the Italian flag, because since the 5 days of Milan 1848, the Italian flag was raised to encourage the Milanese during the revolution. And so even now, during some solemn and civil events, you can admire the Italian flag near the Madonnina. Well, the Madonnina must be always on the top, and so when the Milanese started to build skyscraper higher than the Duomo, they solved the problem by placing copies of the Madonnina higher than the cathedral. And so on the rooftop you can find the moon and the sun. You can find pumpkins, artichokes, and tennis racket, boxing gloves, and some boxers, because this decoration was dedicated to Primo Carnera, who was a boxer, and he was a hero for the sculptors during the 30s. And now we are surrounded by my beautiful city. On the northern part, the New Milan, on the southern part, the old city, and all around us, when the sky is clear, the mountains, the Alps, the pre-Alps on the northern part, and the Apennines into the southern part. And so, unfortunately, this is the end of the tour. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Well, I suggest to insert this experience into the Get Your Guide wish list, to subscribe the Get Your Guide channel, and to buy a gift voucher and come in person when the situation is over. And so, thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon in person, hopefully in person in Milan and during a Get Your Guide original tour. If you like this video and our tour of the Milan Duomo, please consider supporting us with a donation through the provided link. Thank you!